The illusion of inclusion. Why representation without power is just another empty seat. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me today at this extraordinary gathering of minds. I'm truly honored to be here, sharing insights from my recent conversation with Alisa Monroe, a visionary whose work is fundamentally reshaping how we understand leadership, representation, and the power of cultural identity in professional spaces. Alyssa isn't just a thought leader. She's a revolutionary force who has dedicated her life to dismantling barriers for Black professionals. Her groundbreaking work has illuminated pathways for countless individuals navigating complex organizational landscapes, and her commitment to authentic leadership has transformed institutions across the country. In a world of performative allies, Alyssa stands as a beacon of genuine change, challenging us all to move beyond comfortable conversations into spaces of true transformation. What struck me most during our conversation was a profound insight that challenges conventional thinking about representation. We often celebrate when we see Black professionals at the table, assuming their mere presence signals progress. But Alyssa articulated something far more revolutionary. True transformation happens not just when we're present, but when our cultural identities actively influence decision making, strategy, and organizational culture. This isn't just about having a seat at the table, it's about changing the very nature of the table itself. Let me share something that might surprise you. For decades, we've approached diversity through a lens of numerical representation. We count heads, track percentages, create dashboards. Organizations proudly announce their diversity statistics as evidence of progress. But what if this approach is fundamentally limited? What if, as Alyssa suggests, we've been measuring the wrong things all along? The question isn't simply are diverse professionals present, but rather, are they empowered to reshape the institutions they inhabit? This distinction is critical because when we focus exclusively on presence without power, we risk creating environments where diverse professionals are visible but voiceless, where they're invited but not influential, where they're counted but not heard. Let me be clear, representation matters. Seeing people who look like you in positions of authority creates a powerful sense of possibility. It signals that spaces once closed might now be open, but representation without transformation is just another form of tokenism, a cosmetic change that leaves underlying power structures intact. Consider the story of a remarkable leader I learned about through Alisa, a biracial CEO of Black and Korean heritage who ascended through higher education ranks to lead a major community college. Throughout their early career, this individual rarely saw anyone who looked like them in leadership positions. They faced persistent stereotypes about what leaders should look like, sound like, act like. But rather than conforming to these expectations, this leader did something revolutionary. They sought mentorship from those who recognized their potential. They leaned into their dual cultural identity, not as a limitation, but as a profound strength. They recognized that their unique perspective, shaped by navigating multiple cultural worlds, offered insights that more homogeneous leadership teams simply couldn't access. The result? They not only achieved the presidency at a major institution while advocating for inclusive excellence, but they helped pave the way for more diverse leadership pipelines across higher education nationally. They became a role model challenging monolithic notions of identity, inspiring others from underrepresented backgrounds to envision new possibilities for themselves. This story illustrates Alyssa's central insight: the intersectionality of our backgrounds, whether biracial, bicultural, or rooted in historically Black institutions, can be an unmatched asset in leading with empathy and innovation. Our cultural identities don't diminish our leadership capacity. They enhance it in ways that transform organizations and communities. But let's be honest about the challenges. The path forward isn't simple or straightforward. In our conversation, Alyssa shared a sobering example about Meta, formerly Facebook. Following the racial justice movement of 2020, Meta, like many companies, made public commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Resources were allocated, programs were launched, progress seemed imminent. Then came the political backlash. Under pressure, Meta began rolling back its DEI programs. The result? A significant reduction in Black employee representation and increased job insecurity among marginalized groups. Employee resource groups advocated internally, and some sought external support through professional networks focused on diversity advocacy. This situation highlights a painful truth. Corporate commitments to equity can be fragile, vulnerable to political winds and shifting priorities. It underscores the need for sustained structural change beyond surface level pledges, for accountability mechanisms that ensure gains aren't easily erased during times of social or political pushback. As Alyssa emphasized, this reality requires resilience. It demands that Black professionals leverage networks and institutions that have always been incubators for talent despite systemic barriers. Networks like historically Black colleges and universities, community driven organizations, and professional associations that understand our unique challenges and strengths. Speaking of HBCUs, let me share another powerful example from our conversation. Despite chronic underfunding compared to predominantly white institutions, HBCUs continue producing outsized numbers of Black engineers, doctors, teachers, and other professionals. They produce over 40% of Black engineers nationwide and majority percentages among other professions, fueling economic growth locally and nationally, even amid adversity. How do they achieve this remarkable outcome? Through focused investment in STEM programs, strong alumni engagement fueling scholarships, internships, and research opportunities. Their decades long legacy is built on resilience against exclusionary policies while nurturing generations ready to lead across sectors. HBCUs serve as models showing how targeted investment yields broad benefits, not just educationally, but economically and socially for all Americans. They demonstrate sustainable strategies where traditional structures fall short, offering a blueprint relevant both individually and professionally today. This brings me to three key insights from my conversation with Alyssa that I hope you'll carry forward. First, representation matters, but it's not enough unless diverse leaders are empowered to shape policy, culture, and outcomes within organizations. Numbers without influence create the illusion of progress without its substance. Second, Black professionals face ongoing challenges as DEI initiatives lose momentum. Resilience requires leveraging networks such as HBCUs and community driven organizations that have always been incubators for talent despite systemic barriers. Third, investing in yourself by seeking mentorship, building social capital at events like the Boston While Black Summit, and supporting institutions committed to equity is crucial for both individual success and broader community impact. As Maya Angelou wisely reminded us, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. This wisdom applies powerfully to our journey toward authentic leadership. As we learn to value our cultural identities as assets rather than liabilities, we do better for ourselves and for those who will follow. The poet Audre Lorde once wrote, "If I didn't define myself for myself, I would be crunched into other people's fantasies for me and eaten alive." Her words capture the essence of what Alisa advocates, defining leadership on our own terms, rooted in the fullness of our identities and experiences. This journey isn't just about professional advancement, it's about wholeness. It's about bringing our complete selves to spaces that have historically demanded fragmentation. It's about recognizing that our cultural backgrounds aren't incidental to our leadership capacity, they are integral to it. I'm reminded of a powerful affirmation shared in the Pink Parachute Diaries community. I'm not just in the room, I'm transforming it. My voice carries the wisdom of generations. My perspective enriches every conversation. My leadership creates space for others to rise. This affirmation embodies the shift from mere representation to transformative presence that Alisa champions. So, where do we go from here? How do we move beyond representation toward true transformation? It begins with a commitment to authenticity, to bringing our full cultural identities into professional spaces, even when doing so feels risky. It continues with intentional community building, creating networks that sustain us when institutional support falters. And it advances through strategic investment in institutions like HBCUs that have always recognized our potential. But perhaps most importantly, it requires that we redefine success itself in a world that often measures achievement through individual advancement. We must embrace a more expansive vision, one that values collective progress alongside personal gain, one that measures impact not just by titles attained, but by doors opened for others, one that recognizes our responsibility to those who will come after us. As Alisa powerfully articulated, the question isn't simply how high we can climb individually, but how many we can lift as we rise. I stand before you today with an urgent challenge. Reject the comfortable fiction that representation alone equals progress. Demand more than a seat at the table, demand the power to reshape it. When organizations celebrate diversity statistics without transferring decision making authority, call it what it is: performative inclusion. Your cultural identity isn't something to minimize or overcome, it's your greatest leadership asset. The perspectives you've gained navigating systems not built for you are precisely what those systems desperately need. For every organization claiming commitment to diversity while maintaining homogeneous leadership, we must ask, who truly holds power here? Whose cultural frameworks determine what success looks like? Whose voices influence strategy and vision? The time for passive representation is over. We need leaders who bring their full cultural identities into every room, who transform institutions through the power of their authentic presence. We need organizations brave enough to be fundamentally changed by the diverse leaders they claim to value. So I ask you, how will you use your unique background, not just your credentials, to open doors not only for yourself, but also for those coming behind you? What steps will you take this week to invest back into spaces that have invested in us? The world doesn't need more token representatives. It needs transformative leaders who harness the power of their cultural identities to reimagine what leadership can be. It needs you fully present, unapologetically authentic, and ready to lead, not despite your identity, but because of it. The revolution isn't just being at the table, it's rebuilding it all together. Thank you.